Hello, I'm Joe Dubinsky, and welcome to this edition of This is Glendale.
I'm Bet Chorus. Thank you so much for choosing to watch this with us.
So, Bet, how many gallons of water do you think is stored in the Glendale Water Tower?
I have no idea, but after your segment, I think I'm going to know something.
You will. So, we're going to start with this episode talking about Glendale's water and wastewater. We're going to run this for several months. And this first segment will cover the water molecule when it enters the Glendale facility until it gets to your house. And the subsequent segments will follow that throughout the process.
Interesting.
And then hopefully when we're done, you'll know everything you ever need to know about Glendale water and wastewater.
Sounds like good, clean fun.
It is. And you?
I had the pleasure of interviewing a local artist, Mariana Briner. You're going to love seeing her work. Just stupendous. Wonderful woman, great artist, a lot of fun. And we're going to be talking about the Adopt a Family program here in the village, which hopefully a lot of people know about. If not, they'll learn more from this segment.
Hope you enjoy the show. Hi, I'm Joe Dubinsky for This is Glendale, and I'm here with Marcus Couch and Jeremy Fight at Glendale's Water Utility Complex. We're going to, over the next couple of months, talk about our water system, and by the time we're done, you'll know everything, hopefully, you'll need to know about our water system. So guys, Marcus, where does our water come from?
It's a great question, Joe. Actually, where we're standing is underneath the Great Miami Aquifer. So that is actually where we're pulling our water from. It's a large body of water. It covers stretches of Dayton. In some places it's 2 miles wide and 250 feet deep. Wow. So we actually have two wells. We have our east well out here and our south well, which is on the backside of our slaker. And they are what's pulling the water from underneath that aquifer. Our wells are 180 feet deep. The pumps themselves are at 160 feet. And the water level underneath the surface is at 20 feet. So these wells, they're centrifugal pumps. The pumps pull the water up. They send it to our valving where we can actually throttle down the speed, the gallons per minute of what's going into our settling tanks out there. So these pumps are designed around 600 to 700 gallons per minute. We run them around 300 to 350 gallons per minute. So we can, throttle that to where we need it to be. So we are pushing that water into our settling tank number one. And there is where it mixes with our lime slurry.
So once it comes in the building, it goes through a process. Can you kind of explain that process you started to with the first settling tank?
Sure, yeah. So that raw water is going into the settling tank. That's where the actual treatment process starts. So our lime slaker out there is what is pumping the slurry into that first settling tank, and that's where the mixing starts. And that's where you start breaking up the calcium magnesium ions, which actually removes the hardness of the water. Since we're a lime softening plant, we are trying to remove the hardness.
Okay.
Pretty much with the lime slaker, we have dry lime that is filled in the silo, and it drops down through our feeder, and that's where it mixes and starts the mixing process. It drops down again to a pump that pumps an actual slurry that's very active into tank one, and that's kind of where the first, stage of the process starts. So in tank one, it starts mixing.
Yep.
It'll mix, and as it mixes, tank one, we let mix 24 hours a day, every day. All the tanks don't do that. So tank two only mixes about 3 or 4 times a day. And tank 3 and 4 only mix 1 time a day.
What's in tank 2?
Tank 2 is the water that's actually dropping from tank 1 into there. So it's a whole settling process.
Okay, so you're settling out the hardness of the water. So
yes, and
essentially purifying the water
in the lime. Yeah, the lime settles out. So the clarity gets better the farther you go down the settling tanks. And then once they leave the settling tanks, then they actually come into this building, and that's where they go into the filter room. And the filters, they come from tank 4, which is our last settling tank. They go into the filters. That's where they filter out. They filter out into the bottom. We have transfer pumps that pump to our clear well. And in the clear well is where we add our chlorine and fluoride, which is the last step in the process.
So, Jeremy, we test the water, and we have to meet some requirements for water. Can you just explain about the testing?
Every day, an employee has to come into the lab and test. We 365 days a year, where somebody's in here every morning running the chlorine, fluoride, hardness, and alkalinity test every day.
And even on Christmas?
Even on Christmas, Easter, there's one of us in here in this lab doing a test to make sure the water is.
So what's the requirement for the water? We meet an Ohio EPA requirement. What's the requirement that we?
Yeah, we have to maintain at least a 0.2 residual in the system, no higher than a 4.0.
What does that represent?
That represents your chlorine residual in the water.
Okay,
So there's at least a little bit of residual when it leaves the plant. There has to be a residual when it leaves the plant.
That's measured in milligrams per liter.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's really small.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's very, and so every day we have to come in and make sure our residual is within limits. We have to check our hardness and alkalinity, make sure we're putting out good, nice, or what do you call it? Our water's balanced, so it's not corrosive or not hard. So
you're making these adjustments.
you make adjustments. I
As-
mean,
as
you
you
might
need
make
to.
it every day, but it's usually every couple days the water might change on you. We have 2 different wells, like he said, and each well the water's a little bit different, so it's a little bit different settings on each side. But it's small adjustments.
So what would happen if there was a failure at this facility where you couldn't pump the water? So do we have a backup?
Yes, we have. If there's a problem at the plant,
Yeah.
if it takes us 4 hours, 6 hours, we have enough water in the sky. Our tank holds 400,000 gallons of water, so we have time where if something breaks here, we can shut the plant down, fix it, get it back into operation. Or if we can't get it fixed within 24 hours, if it's a major catastrophe, we have an interconnection with Cincinnati that we can turn on and use them until we get our problem fixed.
Cool. Okay, so we have backup.
Yeah.
Yes.
We also have 200,000 gallons in our clear well, which is finished water to be.
So
sent out to
600,000 gallons sounds like it's about 2 days of supply.
roughly, yeah.
So
Yep.
chances are you'll be able to fix anything here
Yeah,
that,
sure.
that failed.
Sure.
So now it leaves this facility.
Yes.
And where does it go?
Well, we have a 10-inch main that our high service pumps operate that pushes the water out into the system, and it's essentially going to fill up the tower, but residents are using it along the way.
So as it's coming through
As it's
that
coming,
10-inch
residents are using it,
People are drawing
for
off.
various different things. It's going down East Sharon Road to right around Jefferson, and Jefferson is where our connection branches it off to the tower.
Okay. So how many miles of pipe is there under the streets of London?
Roughly 18 miles.
18 miles.
18 miles of water main, yes.
Wow. And so the water tower, 400,000 gallons, you said.
400,000 gallons.
And so that represents what again? How much supply?
That's a little over a day supply, but with the clear well, we're looking at close to two days supply of water.
So when I open my tap at home and I
Yes.
have this really good water pressure, where does that come from?
That's actually coming from the tower. You have head that's coming from the tower that's pushing back up on the pipes that leave you that residual pressure.
Wow. Okay. I don't think I have any other questions. This is very informative.
All right.
I'm here with Joe Dubinsky, here with Marcus Couch and Jeremy Feit, talking about our water system. And this is Glendale.
Hello and welcome to this segment of This is Glendale. I'm Bet Chorus, and today I'm in the lovely home of Mariana Briner. Mariana, thank you so much for letting us come in and look at what you do for a living, which is wonderful, wonderful art.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we are in front of her studio. It is a smallish corner of the dining room now, but bigger plans are for the attic restoration. Yes?
Yes. Yeah. We just carved out whatever space I could find. So.
Artists will work where they can. They don't need a special space, I don't think.
Right. Yes.
Oh, I did want to ask you, how young were you before you realized you were meant to be an artist?
I was always making stuff, and I was in a family where everybody liked to make stuff. I mean, everybody just made things without thinking about it.
Really?
You know, my grandmother, she made tablecloths that were lace, and my mother sewed clothes, and my mother went to art school when she was in college at UC. So she had all these art supplies around the store, and my brothers were always doing stuff too, and so it never occurred to me that people didn't do this, you know, so I just naturally kind of fell into it.
So did you continue your education in art officially?
Yeah, I did.
Where did you go and what were
Let's
your...
see, in high school I took lessons at the Art Academy, which
In
was
high school?
life drawing. Yes.
Wow.
Because my mother didn't think the art teacher at the high school where I went was very good. So she said, no, you should go to the art academy where, there's a live nude model. And it was like, oh. And then from there I went to NKU, and really my best grades were in art. So I just ended up majoring in that. And I just loved it. I did.
That's terrific. Now,
Yeah.
you're mentioning painting. Was that your first medium or your strongest?
Not really. I really like drawing most,
Drawing?
but drawings are harder to sell than a painting. People
Right.
like color.
Yes.
So, but really any painting, you must have a really good drawing as a foundation,
Right.
or
It
you
runs
have to
amok.
establish the values and have the accuracy down before you add color.
That's terrific. And you've dabbled in some other things. Well, you want to talk to us a little bit about some of the paintings that are going to be shown to our audience?
Okay.
This one of the child and the dog just blows me away. It is so beautiful.
Yeah, everything was right about that picture. Is that the lighting was perfect. The palette is very harmonious. All the golds and the browns and touches of blue, which he worked into the background. So and the folds on the jacket were just wonderful. That jacket obviously was bought to grow into, so
Right.
there's lots of wrinkles and.
Yeah, there's
And that was almost a puzzle to figure out, and that's what's kind of wonderful about painting is it's kind of a picture puzzle. You have to figure it out and represent what you're seeing.
what you're seeing. Yeah, and it just speaks to the rumpled child too. The innocence and the beauty of the concentration that he has with an interchange he's having with that dog. It's just amazing. You've
Yeah.
caught it so beautifully.
And the dog looks like a very formidable dog too. It's just like you really want to let that dog around a child, but no, obviously the two of them just are one.
They're pals.
Yeah,
They're pals.
yes,
You can tell.
exactly.
Right. Yeah. So you want to talk about your father, the image of your father?
Oh yeah, my daughter actually took the photograph, and it was at Thanksgiving, and my dad was getting on in years, and he was just standing there, and she took this picture, and again, the lighting and everything was just right, and I managed to do it before he died, and I don't think I could have done it after he died because it would have been too emotional,
Right.
you know. But yeah, it was just a little isolated moments, and then that's what I kind of look for in doing portraits. The little moments that people are not really paying attention. They're not necessarily just
Right. They're not posing.
posing or smiling at the camera because you
Right.
don't really see people that way most of the time.
That's true.
Yeah, you catch them in the act of being lovely, and that's what makes it really interesting. And it tells a little bit of a story about them. So you actually care about who's in the painting, and you want to find out more about them. Whereas with a landscape, it's a landscape. It's nice, But people, you kind of stop and wonder about them and who they were, and more than inanimate objects.
Right. Yeah. That's when a painting truly becomes art.
Right.
When it is life itself represented.
Exactly.
That's really terrific. You have done some other mediums. We were talking about that. You made some dolls, and you worked with felt, which was something that blew me away. And I know you don't do that much anymore. But can you tell me how the image that he will show, how that came about? The porch.
The porch. I had just moved to Glendale, and there was a gift exchange, and we were supposed to make something for make a gift, or not make a gift, but just give a gift along with the poem to the recipient and keep it secret. Well, it didn't stay secret, obviously, because I made something so personal, and I was just so worried about making a good impression having moved to Glendale. So I did a little house portrait in a box, and it was very timely because she was planning on moving, and so now she had a keepsake of her house, and her husband liked to work with wood, so here it was in a wooden box, and most of this was completely by accident that I managed to make everything work. But she obviously knew who did it, so I haven't done it since for any occasion.
Yeah, but I mean, but it was just shockingly beautiful. I think the whole club was agog that you were able to create that and give that to her as a gift, for her to take with her as well. I mean,
Well,
to
it was sort of like I
remind
had
her
this
of
idea and I
Glendale.
thought, I wonder if I can do this. Oh yeah, I can. Okay.
That's great.
Yeah, so almost the pen and ink and watercolor is sort of a urban. There's a group called Urban Sketchers,
Okay.
and it's an international group. And the object of the game is sort of like plein air, where you go out into the field and you paint, draw something. Medium doesn't matter. Paint and draw exactly what you see in front of you. And so you have maybe a couple of hours to execute something, and then we have a throwdown where we just put what everybody did on the ground and we take a picture of it, and no judgment, whatever style you have, doesn't matter. But it's been really good for me because one, it makes me get something done in 2 hours rather than fuss over it for days.
Right. It nips your drive for perfection, which probably frees you up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So and working with a medium I'm not as enthused with, like watercolor and pen and ink.
Yeah.
So, but I've gotten better, having done it now for a few years, and it's just like, yeah, I'm kind of grooving on this. And sometimes it's just something on toned paper with black and white and maybe a little mark of red. It's a very effective look. So yeah, and so I've also done that with some house portraits. So that's expanded. So with the house portrait, those nobody wants a loose house portrait, I don't think. So I try to make those nice and crisp and linear. Sort of like the Camp Ernst back there. That's the dining hall of Camp Ernst, and I did that as a fundraiser for them. So they made prints and they sold out pretty quickly. We probably should have made more prints.
Perhaps they will for the next fundraising activity.
Right.
Yeah. I did want to ask you. You're so busy with doing everything, and you probably are not interested in this. But would you ever consider offering some sort of a painting class, a small membered painting class, where people who don't have anywhere near the amount of talent that you have, that you might be able to share some of your vision and correction with stuff? Or no?
Sure.
You
I could do that. I don't have a studio where I can teach. That's the problem. I'm working on getting a studio together, but if there's a common space that I could use and enough people were interested, I could teach a class, sure.
Oh, okay, because that's something that would certainly interest me, and I think there are others. So maybe we'll put that out there for the universe to try to make happen, and we'll see if we can get something like that done.
That would be nice, yes.
Is there anything else that you would particularly like to talk about or share?
No, other than that, I probably haven't done my best yet, and that's a thing about art is that as opposed to sports, you get to a point where you're too old to do it, and with art you keep growing with that as long as you can.
Yeah.
So you keep trying, and and you keep learning, because sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, and you have to not take it personally when it doesn't work out.
Yeah, not beat yourself up too badly.
Yes, exactly. And it's hard because people are, don't be so sensitive. Well, if I wasn't sensitive, I wouldn't be an artist, would I?
How true. How true. And last but not least, please note she made the sweater that she's wearing as well. Years ago,
decades ago. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It's lovely. I'd give my left arm if I didn't think I would need it to be able to have that skill set.
Well, you wouldn't be able to knit then if you had a left arm.
Well, thank you very much. This has been a lovely interview, and I hope all of you have enjoyed learning a little bit more about this incredibly talented person in our village. Thank you, Mariana.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for coming to talk to me.
And as we always end up, you know how we look at the camera and say, this is Glendale. Hello and welcome to this segment of This is Glendale. I'm Bet Chorus, and with me today is Chief Craig Walsh, and we're here to talk about the Adopt a Family program here in Glendale. So, Chief, why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown about how this occurred and what's happening and what we need to be thinking about?
This was a program that the former chief, Dave Warman, started probably 15 to 20 years ago. Back then, when he first started it, it was run by the police department, and everybody did everything. And then it grew to where now it's a village-wide program. It's not just the police department getting involved, it's village residents buying gifts, sending in gift cards and everything.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I noticed that in addition to the normal thing, they brought up the mittens,
Yes.
which makes it a more finite, easy thing for people to just buy and or contribute.
Now it's mittens, coats,
Yeah.
anything.
That's terrific. And do you know the deadline for this?
I would say mid-December,
Right. Yeah.
next couple weeks here. Everything will be finalized and everything will be ready to pass out.
Do you think you could come up with an average number of families that might have been adopted any given year, or a parameter, something
I
that might
think it's been upwards to 20 families or more in different years. I'm not sure
Terrific.
what the final numbers were.
Is there anything that you might want to say to people in general about maybe contributing or bringing it in, or?
Anybody that wants to contribute can send in gift cards, or they can send checks into the village office. Checks need to be made out to the village of Glendale, and we can use that money to supplement what comes in and help people in whatever way we can.
Terrific. Thank you very much, and hopefully those of you out there who have not yet given, please consider, with the gift cards or actual clothing. And for those of you who have always done this and continue to do this, thank you so much. The village appreciates your contributions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, thanks for watching this edition. Bet I hope you learned something from the segment on the waterworks. And next time, we're going to follow that water molecule from when it enters your home until it leaves your home.
It's really very interesting. I'm so excited that you're doing this.
It's fascinating, I think.
Right. And also, I want to bring to your attention that the Glendale Heritage Preservation will be mounting a new show about the merchants of Glendale. And they're hoping that if you have any paraphernalia whatsoever, menus, maybe product, signs, anything from former merchants, that you make it available to loan to the GHP for their program.
And they're open on Thursdays and Saturdays from 11 to 3.
Okay?
Or if you want to email them, their email address is ghp@fuse.net. That's ghp@fuse.net. I happen to know that.
Right, closely involved. And also, I want to remind you to participate in the Adopt a Family program here for the village. It's a wonderful thing that the whole village does, and I hope that if you haven't done it before, you'll donate this time.
And we're pleased to announce that This is Glendale will be returning to ICRC, so you'll be able to see it on your local cable channel. More information to follow in the Glendale Weekly Newsletter. Well, for that, Bet, have a safe and happy holiday.
You as well, and all of you there.
See you next time on This is Glendale.